Needless Things Podcast. Hey, Phantomaniacs, welcome to a bonus episode of the Needless Things Podcast, where we talk about toys, movies, music, and all manner of pop culture dorkery, including the hip-hop music that the kids are listening to these days. That's right, this is not your regularly scheduled episode. This is a special episode that we had to put together because we have a very special guest, and that is Wordburglar. So, no normal intro. That'll come on Monday's Valentine's Day episode, so tune in on Monday. For right now, it's time to sit down and talk to the man known as Wordburglar.
Please, don't be heroes. All we want is the MacGuffin device.
What's a MacGuffin device?
Top secret, Suave!
So you don't know either.
Let's get going!
Got a style rarer than a left-handed snake, and my pencil got potential like a fresh can of paint. Get it straight, the paper stock is heavyweight. Right so fly, I'll make a page levitate. Savannah to Santa Fe, Indiana to Tampa Bay, demanding they play all the way from Canada, A. I can't stand a fake, RoboCop 3, insulting the original, no props from me. Concerts and clubs to the Comic-Con floors, opinions are like assholes, I don't want yours. The job's taken, stop applying, homie. Get live like Jay-Z before Hawaiian Sophie. If rhymes were football, I'd have a Heisman trophy. The best you ever did was be high in Sobeys. You're lying, bro, please. I'm hi-fi Doby, you know me. Knock a beat on ice like Ty Domi. Love what you do, it helps prevent rage. Turn haters into a Facebook event page. What? Hey, yo, guess who done it? You couldn't say nothing.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I had to take a little break from listening to Donnie Benet when I found out that the man responsible for Welcome to Cobra Island was putting out another LP, and it was well worth it to take that little break. Let's welcome to the Needless Thing Podcast, the MC who rhymes his business and has all the replicable skills, Wordburglar. Welcome to the show.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Dave. This is amazing. I'm honored to be here. And for the listeners at home, I'm going to spend the whole podcast staring at all your action figures in the background.
Sometimes I'll have like the little, you know how the Zoom can do the background with it, does the weird composite of you in front of something. Sometimes I do that, but this is this is a good icebreaker. This is, oh, okay, this guy, I see what he's all about. It puts it right up on the screen.
I feel like I'm just hanging at my friend's house who's got like the best collection. And maybe you've got extra, you got a double toll booth that you don't want.
Okay, so here's the funny thing. Before we started recording, I was talking about like how vintage had kind of sucked, vintage G.I. Joe had sucked me back in. And because of losing my childhood collection in accumulating what I've got, I do have extras. I do have doubles, and I can't bear to part with them. Because I'm like, I just can't let Joe's go. It's too emotional. I'm invested. Before we get too much further, we'll mention it a couple of times during the interview, but right out of the gate, we got to talk about the new LP you've got coming out, the MacGuffin device. Tell us where the listeners can check it out, what we're doing here.
Thank you. Well, yeah, if you go to wordburglar.com, we've got it right on the first thing you see there right now. The MacGuffin device is a vinyl collection of 14 songs of mine that I've never put out on vinyl. And, I have a small amount of vinyl out in existence right now, a couple of 45s, like 7-inch singles, and the full-length Cobra Island, which was our first crowdfunded vinyl, which we did about a year ago. And I was really excited to get that album out. If people haven't heard it, welcome to Cobra Island. It's inspired by my love of sectors. And
it's funny you bring up sectors because I had their creator, Tim Clark, on the show. He's fantastic. He created Sectars and Boglins.
Amazing. I love all those puppety oddballs. They're
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, the weird stuff from the 80s, the gross out toys and stuff.
Yeah, man. Yeah, you put them on your. I was telling somebody about them. I was like, you put it on your hand, and like even Boglins felt weird, like when you put your hand in. I say feel as if I like feel a Boglin every day. That sounds weird.
They're different from anything else you might feel. They're very Boglin-y.
Yeah, like what is that? It's a strange, like hybrid rubbery PVC. I don't know what that material is.
Back in the 80s, it was a kind of a latexy foam rubber type stuff, and they didn't. You know, back then they weren't making these toys to last. They didn't think about like Joe's being the ABS plastic that's going to get brittle over time, or the Boglins. You know, kind of like the masks and stuff they use in movies. It decays over time because back then they didn't care. These kids are going to have this for a year and throw it away. But now he's making Boglins again, and they're made of a much tougher, sturdier material that feels completely different from the original ones. It's not quite as foamy, but it's wild how different it is making toys now. And like these new O-ring Joes are made of different materials because they're made to last.
Yeah. Well, they're great. And we were just saying before we started recording, like the new O-rings right now, I've just got the Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow, and they're phenomenal. And I hope, as much as I want to see reissues, I want to see new characters, right? Yeah. Like the way Super 7 is doing like a Quinn, like, you know, the Super 7 stuff is super fun. But I'm like, I got G.I. Joes because they can move more than my Star Wars guys. You know, I can't go back to 5 points of articulation.
I said the same thing, and then I saw them in stores on the pegs, and I've bought like everyone that I've seen. Oh, yeah? They're just so fun to look at, like the design of them. And I totally get the people who are like, no, I can't do 5. Because I was the same way. I started with Star Wars, and part of the appeal of Joe to me was the elbows and the knees and the hips moving differently. And like they were just completely superior toys. But what Super 7's doing tugs at my nostalgia so hard because I loved the comics. I loved the cartoon, and their stuff is straight out of that. And you're not going to see like that Game Master drone probably coming from Hasbro. I mean, maybe, but
exactly. Yeah. And the Games Master, I sampled that, like the Baroness from that episode years ago. I have an album called Burglaritis, and we used a sample because I love that episode. And that's a great example. I mean, we could just go on and on about all this stuff. But yeah, the Sunbow, and like that was such a great, like when they injected humor, but like you saw these sides of people's personality, like the characters. I'm saying people, like they were real people, but like Flint and Baroness, I mean, like they were personalities the time, in that, right? Yeah, and they everyone was just bigger, and like Baroness and Cobra Commander, and like the way they play off each other in that episode. So, anyways, yes, that tugged at my nostalgia strings. Seeing that they're doing now, they haven't done the actual Games Master though, have they?
But I mean, I think that's kind of the fun of it with Super 7, because those guys, they're us. They know what they're doing. They know who they're marketing to. So like to throw the drone out first, they know like, oh my gosh, they're doing this. Well, I guess we'll get the Games Master. It's going to happen. Like they're very good at that kind of teasing salesmanship, I guess it is.
Yeah, with Blind Woodsman, I guess anything is on the table now.
You know what I loved so much about that is there was no like 6-month pre-order. They were like, oh, by the way, we're making this and you can buy it right now. And a couple of days later, I had the thing in my hands. It was beautiful. I mean, like I said, they're us. They know every once in a while it's nice. Same thing with the Fun School inspired Snake Eyes in the reaction line, the blue one. Same thing. The day they announced that, I went to a store and they had it. I mean, that doesn't happen anymore.
They've definitely got some kind of future Cobra device that's able to do that, or play with our minds and be like, oh yeah, we just told you about it today, but they actually told us about it 6 months ago. And
it wouldn't surprise me that they put brainwave scanners in all of our phones. I mean, probably,
but who needs that? Yeah, so I got a record coming out. It's called the MacGuffin Device. We're funding it. I'm super excited about it. I'll just do a quick pitch. It's 14 jams, old school hip hop infused with all the things I love, nerdy passions, touching on nostalgia, video games, the days of renting movies, G.I. Joe, comic books, Conan, He-Man, little Dungeons and Dragons hints in there. Of course, like a lot of old school hip hop stuff. I take all the music for anyone who's not heard my stuff before. I'm very much influenced by old school hip hop of the 80s and 90s. Like that's like my pocket and what I love. And so when I work with other producers, we, creating that sound and that style of rapping is what I love and what I've always worked on. And then the themes are all, just things that I love. And whether it's food or action figures or hockey or whatever the case may be. And the MacGuffin device artwork is by Brian Sauer. This is brand new artwork that is exclusive to this vinyl. We've got a brand new remix on there for a song I did called Damage Control with Esoteric, who's a rapper from Boston. And the Damage Control, for any comic book heads out there, know that they're the people that clean up after the Marvel superheroes. And I was really into Damage Control as a kid. I always liked that concept of like, oh yeah, these are just the guys that are just like, they're the hardworking guys that just have to come in and deal, when, Thor smashes up a bridge or something, right? Galactus sits on your office. They've got to come in and take care of things. So, so we're doing it. We're funding it now on Bandcamp. You can find the link on wordburglar.com. And as of this recording, I think there's about 23 days left to go. We're almost at our goal. And if you support, there's a few different reward tiers. You can get, we've got a mix CD that we're doing, like an old school burned mix CD that I'm like burning on my actual laptop. And we've got all with a bunch of like cool exclusives and sort of rarities. And it's going to be, like a fun mixtape hosted by me. And the vinyl's blue and it looks really nice. And all the lyrics are going to be included so you can rhyme along. And you get a digital copy of the album as well. So you can listen to it before you get the vinyl. But that's it. I mean, other than that, let's just talk G.I. Joe.
Well, and speaking of the digital copy, that's what I did today on the way into work and on the way home, listened to it 2.5 times. And it's amazing because I've been doing this podcast for 9 years now. And if it had a soundtrack, it would be this collection of music. It's so perfect. The one that really kicked in was Rental Patient. We have talked so many times on the show, at live panels, whatever, about that VHS era, about picking things purely based on the cover art, which is sometimes not even accurate.
A lot of times.
Yeah. And also not having that immediate access to just anything that you wanted to watch. Like that was a key of that era. Now we watch whatever we want, whenever we want to watch it. You've got 4 different versions of Star Wars. You can go to your shelf or your, streaming box or whatever and watch. But back then, if you want to watch Star Wars or WCW Fall Brawl or whatever, you had to go to the video store and rent it. And it was a completely different concept. And just when that song kicked in, I was like, man, this is, ooh, wow. I'm feeling a lot from this music. And then on top of that, like when I was a kid getting into hip hop, like one of the magical things about hip hop is that's how you discover other music. And this is a whole different thing because, listening to De La Soul or the Beastie Boys or whatever back in the day, you'd hear something, you'd be like, oh, I wonder what that was. You go to the liner notes and you figure out, which track they were sampling from. But with this, I hear things and it's exciting because I'm like, oh, I know what that is. I know where that came from, which was part of why I loved Welcome to Cobra Island so much. I wish you could like see in my brain how much that album blew me away the first time I put it on the turntable over there, because using the samples of the music from the show, the way that you respected the comics and the cartoon and wove them both together, because a lot of people don't love both. A lot of people don't, recognize both. How what do the notes in your phone look like? Because they have to be insane.
Wow. Thank you for all of that. It's funny, when I made Welcome to Cobra Island, that really was just a lifetime of love and passion and obsession, we'll say it, with Joe, and just always being that one person who was like, G.I. Joe's the best. Like I always loved it. I, grew up around it. I was lucky. I had a lot of older cousins and older kids in my neighborhood too, who would school me on stuff. Right. And I'd always be hanging around older kids. And I remember some older kids at school being like, oh yeah, these Joes, but have you ever seen these ones? And blah, blah, blah. And, I was like right in that pocket of the 80s where, I got my first Joes, and it was like, it never stopped, like all through my childhood, from like Grunt and Tripwire, Recondo, all the way up to the bitter end, to the Aliens. And I never stopped. And you touched on something earlier, before the internet, you didn't know when new Joes came out. Maybe you happened to be at the mall or the drugstore with your mom, and like, I'd see like some new Joe, or you'd see an ad. I remember seeing ads for the new figures come out, and then there'd just be like a quick glimpse, and you'd see somebody who's like, wait, who's that purple guy? Or who's this guy? And there's just the magic of that line and all the creators. And so, yeah, I have a reverence and a love, and I appreciate all the creativity and thought that went into every aspect of the A Real American Hero line, and from the figures to the file cards and the comics and the cartoons, right? And existing them. And I always loved Sunbow, but I obviously am crazy about the Larry Hama Marvel run, which is just phenomenal to this day. I'll tell anyone, if you haven't read it, whether you're into G.I. Joe or not. And maybe like you, towards the end of the run, like I remember going to a comic shop when I was pretty young, and it was like towards the end of the run, maybe Joe was like around the 120s or something. And the clerk at the comic store, I was getting my comics, and he was ringing me in. He's looking at my comics. I'm getting Spider-Man and Batman and whatever, Justice League and G.I. Joe. And he's like, oh, G.I. Joe. Yeah, I used to read this when it didn't suck. I was like, well, what do you mean? It's still awesome. And of course we know that like there's a big drop off in the Marvel run where you can pick parts, and you can like almost like as you're reading, when there's a shift change, and people are like, okay, but throughout that whole run, there's a couple weak spots, I think, towards the end. And like 126, I always say, is like that issue with Firefly, and they reveal that's kind of like, that's when I feel like it's a really solid run up till there with one or two little hiccups. And then that last chunk is a bit of like, what's going on? Hasbro doesn't know if they're canceling the line.
I think
Larry's
everybody knew it was
much.
winding down and wasn't the center of attention that it used to be. So I mean, I get it. It's entropy. These things happen.
Yeah, but we get some great issues towards the run. And see, I told you we'd be going way off. But just to answer your question, I mean, Joe was just always like, I love the cartoon, and I'll defend Cobra, but Cobra doesn't belong in the Larry Hama verse.
Right.
But I love Cobra in the Sunbow universe, because if you accept everything else that goes on, fatal fluffies, fluke worms, shrink rays,
the amoeba, the giant amoeba.
Yeah. De-aging thing, when they like the kid Lowlight and Lady J become kids, mainframe dating, like it could go on. Like it's amazing. But if you accept all of that, why is Cobra? Why
is that a bridge too far?
Yeah. And like being a comic book kid too, like having mutants and stuff and aliens, like this is all like really cool. And especially being a kid, when I first saw that Cobra movie, I still get chills thinking about how like my brain like exploded. And I was like, everything I know is a lie. Wait, what do you mean Cobra Commander's not the like top? Like there's something else more sinister behind it, and it's this weird monsters, and they're going to mutate everybody. And you watch that movie today, it's amazing. So anyways, I love all that, but how does it all fit together? And that was how like Welcome to Cobra Island came together. And I was like, how do I take all these things and make it work, and be respectful, give Snake Eyes, like this is his due. And like one last thing, because I will go on about this forever if you let me.
No, that is not a problem at all. Believe me, that's what we do here.
Thanks, man. I saw the first G.I. Joe, the live action movie. And this is what I tell people. And I was working at a comic shop at the time, and I got free passes, and we went to the premiere, and it was this huge night. And everyone kind of knew I was the G.I. Joe guy, if you will, like at the shop. Like people were like, oh, that's, SJ's still like carrying the flame for Joe. He's still like, fighting for freedom wherever there's trouble. That's him. Like, talk to this guy. And we saw that movie, and I wasn't that into it. I don't want to hate whatever. If people like that movie is great, but it wasn't like what I thought it could be. And I remember afterwards, and maybe it's because I worked in a comic shop, like the biggest comic shop in Toronto, where, we had a movie theater around the corner. So everyone would come see the movies, and they come to the comic shop, and like, we had to, it was like, you had to see the movie like the day it opened or the day before it opened.
Or somebody was going to come in and ruin it.
It'd be spoiled on your lunch break on Friday, right? Someone would see the matinee and you'd be like, oh man, like, anyways, there was all this, negativity around Joe at the time. And people were like, this is whack. Why do you like G.I. Joe? And I was like, you know why I like G.I. Joe? This. And you know what? I'm just going to rap about why I love G.I. Joe so much. And I'd have always worked G.I. Joe into my rhymes, and always like going back ever since I was a kid, because it's something I care about. And then I'd always wanted to do like a Snake Eyes song. And then it just started growing, and the Rap Viper song came, and all these other tracks. And I just wanted to make sure that it was like, I had no idea who was going to hear it. I just was really doing it for myself and my friends, and to also be like, hey, look, you think G.I. Joe sucks? Well, it doesn't. And here's why. And it was kind of like, if I had the reins to do what I wanted with a G.I. Joe movie or something, this is how I would pull all my favorite elements from the toys and the comics and the cartoons, the file cards, weird, obscure things, even the live action movie. I tried to pull in like one or two little subtle nods that maybe people might pick up on. And I was like, this is how it all exists in my world. Because being into comics, you read a Spider-Man comic or something, and there's a million Spidey comics out there.
Yeah.
So when you read one, where does it fit? What is it? It's like, all that matters is that one thing you're reading right now. This is Spidey. That's how I look at it. It's like, I could get crazy about continuity or errors, or say Spidey would never do this, or this doesn't happen, or Spidey should be 75 years old by now. Why is he teaching?
Right.
Like, you have to just like, I think as like being into this stuff, these needless things, if you will.
Right.
You have to like remember where the fun is and what you love and all this stuff. And anyways, that's a big, long thing.
But that's exactly it. It's about finding the fun, because the 2009 Joe movie, it's not the movie I would have made. It's probably not the movie most Joe fans would have made, but you get a Scotsman, Destro.
Mm-hmm. Probably the best part of the movie, and Zartan. Yeah.
Dude, Arnold Vosloo is Zartan. Perfect.
Yeah, like, amazing. Yeah.
That for me, there's enough there that I can say, you know what? This part's they're using giant drill vehicles to drill into G.I. Joe headquarters. Come on. At the end, there's a huge underwater base and a submarine battle. Like, yeah, overall, the movie doesn't nail it, but dude, there's some stuff in there that you never would have thought we'd see in live action on the screen. Some of like the wackiest stuff from maybe not the wackiest, but the most like tropey stuff from the cartoons made it into that movie. And I gotta appreciate it for that.
Oh, for sure. And it was that time before the big Marvel movies, it really, so people still didn't know that you could like honor the original stuff while putting it into a modern thing. Like, I think those movies, like, there's a lot of great ideas in there. They don't come together well.
Well, and they're hampered by the studio's idea of, well, we want to use this, but we've got to make it palatable to the general audience. And like you said, this is pre-MCU. It was even though it was 2009, 13 years ago now, which I don't really like thinking about, but it was a different era of film. If we started with a clean slate now and had the right, person at the head of it, I think we could get a Joe movie that really did stick to the core of what Joe is. But we've got and one more thing I wanted to mention G.I. Joe wise, because we're talking about the MacGuffin device. So I'm listening to this and just really feeling this album. And then right in the middle of it, we get a song about worlds without end. Blew my mind because one of, I think, the most highly regarded and popular, pairs of G.I. Joe episodes. When you're a kid, mind blowing because some members of the Joe team don't come back. It actually, for all the time, as comic book fans, as cartoon fans, or whatever, as often as we see this changes everything, and it really doesn't. This did. And it happened in the comic a good bit because Larry Hama was told to cycle out characters. But for it to happen in the cartoon and for us to see, we're never going to see these guys again because they're staying in this alternate dimension, which, by the way, the alternate dimension where Cobra Commander is president and essentially rules the world, really deep, big stuff for a kid to be taken in back in the day. And then, so this pops up. And then right after that, we get into samples from Once Upon a Joe, one of the funniest episodes of Real American Hero. I'll tell you right now, we were talking about Super 7. If Super 7 wanted to do figures of Frog Face, Leatherhead, and Ship Shape, I'm there.
Absolutely, man.
I'm there.
Well, clearly you're the guy that this album was meant for. So,
dude, I'm telling you, it's fantastic. But I want to get back to because all of the, not just the samples, but the turns of phrase and some of the things that you drop in the tracks, what's your method of sort of organizing? You see, if you're sitting there watching a cartoon, and you're like, "Oh, that sounded pretty cool. That was a cool sound effect," or "I like the way that that character, the way that she dropped that line was really cool." Do you pause and record it right there so you remember it? Do you just make a note? What's your process of keeping track of your pop culture stuff?
I kind of just remember things, and they come to me at the weirdest. They'll come to me at the weirdest times, man. I don't. Sometimes I'll hear something, and I'll be like, I got to use that for something one day, and I forget about it, or I will maybe make a note somewhere, go back and watch this episode of 6 Feet Under because they're at a funeral, and the guy makes an oddball comment that actually sounds like the perfect intro for this song I'm writing. And to be honest, that's a true thing. And I can't remember what episode of 6 Feet Under that is. But years ago, I remember, my wife and I were binging that show. And I remember there was one episode and this guy said something. It's like, what? I got to write. And so one day that'll come to me and I'll figure it out and put it all together. But, with something like the MacGuffin device and, you're talking about Once Upon a Joe, obviously Worlds Without End is my favorite two-parter, and G.I. Joe, it's so incredible. And I get even you telling it back to me, which is, it's a show I know so well. I still get those goosebumps from being a kid and watching it at 6 in the morning before school and only catching part 2 and it's out of order. And then you hope you catch the other part, months later and I miss this and whatever. And that stuck with me. And, shout out the writers. I was just talking about this, Marv Wolfman and Steve Gerber and all these incredible, groundbreaking comic book creators who got recruited by Sunbow through the Marvel Productions and everything. And they all worked with Flint Dille and everybody who was writing those cartoons at the time. And that whole era, the Sunbow, they need to do a documentary on Sunbow and how that, for one pocket in time, they just cranked out the best cartoons of that era that we still talk about to this day, right?
And they still hold up that. Yeah. And I'll watch and enjoy plenty of things from the 80s. They're fun. But when I start watching Joe cartoons, I just sit there and I'll watch because I've got that Foot Locker that Rhino put out years ago that has all of the episodes. And if I put one in, I'm watching 6. There's no unless we're doing a review on Audible Interlude, Like, and I can only watch the one because I've got to keep everything straight in my head. Like if I'm watching one, I'm watching a bunch because they flow. They're so good. The characters are so charming, and the storytelling, as it keeps it simple, but at the same time, there are layers to these characters. Like you were saying, well, to go back to Worlds Without End, to find out about this relationship between Baroness and this alternate universe Stealer. Again, mind-blowing. And what a interesting way, like what an interesting character to use to establish him at the beginning of this episode as the guy who's had it. He's fed up with it. And really to have that commentary about war in a children's cartoon. And that's the other thing, is that they were embedding so many, and in a way that fit into a cartoon, but embedding so many important morals and life lessons into that show beyond just the knowing is half the battle stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, he's like, what's the point, right? I think that may even be one of his like lines. He's like,
it is. They beat us. We beat them over and over again. What's the point of it all? I mean, it's heavy, man. Like it really is. And, again, kudos to them for bringing that stuff to us.
Yeah.
So we got to talk about, obviously your pop culture influences are here. They're on your sleeve, on the sleeve, whatever.
Literally on my shirt.
Yeah, right. But we got to talk about your hip hop influences as well.
Sure.
When did you discover this unique singular form of expression? Like, where did it start for you?
Well, really young. I feel like maybe grade 2 or grade 3 is when I first got exposed. I can't quite remember whatever the first thing was, but I loved Run DMC, Fresh Prince, LL Cool J. I had a Fat Boys record. Again, like my cousin introduced me to Ice Cube, some kids on my street introduced me to Public Enemy. Like I just got obsessed with all of this stuff. And, being in that boom, like growing, just being a kid and like, and it's the late 80s, early 90s as like everything is like rap is just exploding. And I just loved it. And there's a college radio show in my hometown where I grew up in Halifax, Nova Scotia, on the East Coast, for anybody keeping track. And it was called The Basement. And the host actually went on to be a rapper named Buck 65 that some people may have heard of. And Buck 65 used to play all these great underground hip hop records. And being a kid, like just listening on my radio, I would dub these radio shows onto cassette. And then I've got an instant 2-hour mixtape of like crazy underground hip hop. Of course, bringing in the 90s introduced me to Nas and Wu-Tang Clan and Beatnuts and Javer the Damager. And just like, I could just name rap all day. And I just loved it all. I love the beats. I love the creativity, the writing, the personalities, the storytelling. You can go from a great, party jam to something political and really poignant to just some hilarious story to just real street life stuff to, anything, and the wordplay and punchlines. And like, I was like, how do they do this? How are they saying these words? How are they making things rhyme? And it's I
still to this day wonder that.
Yeah. And I just listened and would just rap, and I'd rap to myself. I'd rap with my friends. I'd just like be in my room rapping along to Fresh Prince or LL Cool J or something. And I just would always do it. And I just kind of never stopped doing it. And I never thought I'm going to be a rapper and I just never stopped doing it. And I'm still trying to get good at it.
Well, that's the thing though, is no matter what it is you're doing, if it's the thing you're passionate about and the thing that you love, you really are, like, I think until the day you die, always trying to get better at it, because that's the difference between the thing you love and the thing that you pour your soul into and the day job.
Yeah, man. So, and then I just would rap about stuff I liked and just, keeping it real, being like a nerdy kid from Halifax, Nova Scotia. I just wanted to rap and just like keep it as real. And it's, to me, like, my favorite rappers were all just literally keeping it real, which is a cliched expression, but it's like they were just telling it like it is. But you can go to different places, you can get creative, like what RZA did with all the Wu-Tang stuff, and like, you know, incorporating all the kung fu movies, or, you know, Kool Keith is another one of my favorite rappers.
Oh yeah,
just
yeah.
like oh yeah. And I mean, I had the opportunity to work with Kool Keith on a track, which was just like,
oh my
you know,
gosh,
crazy. Yeah, it's on Spaceverse, which is an album that maybe people listening might be into as well, which is all like, you know, some Transformers, Star Wars, Star Trek,
okay,
type stuff.
I got you.
But yeah. And anyways, yeah, so just like the art always just appealed to me. And of course, I love music and just the different beats and being able to, you mean like they just took their favorite part of this song and just looped it and put on some drums and brought in, you know, some record scratches, and like this whole beat is just like their favorite part of the song. Like, that's what I want to do. And so then keeping, you know, obviously with Welcome to Cobra Island, I think it's clear where a lot of the samples come from. And I just, you know, that music always spoke to me. And yeah, it just felt so cinematic. So yeah, going back, like that's a good example. Like those with that music, like that just was so evocative and to me, and it just was like laid the foundation for me to tell these stories, right? So like A Letter from Snake Eyes, it's like a tiny little snippet that we used that, unless you really watch a lot of the cartoons, you might not be like, wait, what is that from? But like the way Timbuktu, who's a producer on that track, flipped it around, you know, it's just like it breathed life into this like tiny little moment of the musical sample that I think was just like it's just like, wow. It's like gave it more room to breathe.
Yeah.
That's, if we're going to get nerdy about music, it's like sometimes you hear a part of a song, like a jazz record or what, disco, whatever it may be. And there's like one little part and it's like, I just want to hear that. I want to hear that over and over and then rap on it. But yeah.
Well, that's part of the magic of hip hop is you may have heard this, like tons and tons and tons of artists, and especially in the 90s, were sampling Hall & Oates. Maybe, I don't know, but I would feel comfortable saying Hall & Oates are probably one of the most sampled acts. And you may have heard Rich Girl 1,000 times in your life. You probably have. But there's this one little part that when you hear it sampled, and you're like, wait, that's from Rich Girl. Wait, that is from Rich Girl. Whoa, they picked out this. This isn't what I think of as the main portion of the song. It's not what goes through my head when I think of Rich Girl, but they picked out this one cool little beat from it and then looped it. And now that, like, it's fascinating to me to see that. And actually, did you watch any of the Wu-Tang series on Hulu?
Yes. Yeah, I did. Yeah.
My favorite part of the show was when they would do the sequences of RZA figuring the beats out and like slowing things down. Dude, I could have watched that for 6 hours just if they had just done. I would love to see a documentary about 36 Chambers, like an actual documentary. First time ever, I got that album on vinyl. I'd never heard it on vinyl before. And oh gosh, I think it was Vinyl Me Please, one of the sort of boutique, like, we put out our fancy gold speckled edition of this album, whatever. So I got to the house.
I love that stuff too. You don't have to whatever. It's like, I'm with you, man. I hear.
I'm such a sucker for gimmicky. Like if I'm looking online and I'm like, okay, here's 36 Chambers, just regular vinyl release, 180 gram, whatever. Oh, but wait, this one has a gold vinyl with stars on it or whatever. Oh, I'm going to have to get this one. I can't help myself. So, but I get it. I put it on, never, because there's, and we've talked about this on the show before when we've talked about music. I'm not like an audiophile. I'm not a music snob. I'm not going to claim like my ear can pick up different things from, but listening to a record is a different experience from listening to something digitally or on CD or any other way. One, it's more physical. You have to interact with it. You have to put it on the turntable. You have to get up and flip it over, and it makes your brain interact with the music in a different way. Because if you've got if it's a regular LP, 2 sides, well, that track that ends the first side and then the track that kicks off side B, those tracks have a completely different significance than if you're just sitting there listening to a CD or a digital stream or whatever, because you're physically involved with them and you're aware of their impact. It's a whole different experience. And that's why I was so excited to talk about the MacGuffin device being an LP, because it's going to give you that tactile experience of listening to this music that's a whole different level.
Thank you. Can I just bring you with me everywhere to be like, this is why we put out vinyl? And like,
I'll come out. I'll do the intro. I'll be like, look, guys, if you don't get records, let me explain this to you.
And that's why, like, exactly like with Cobra Island, it was so important. I was like, well, we're going to have the lyrics on the back. Like, I want to like just have people like be involved. Dude, thank you.
I was sitting the whole time just like, what is happening? Dude, rank and file. I was like, oh my gosh, he's like recruited an entire battalion of rappers for this song. And I'm sitting here like, oh man, look, who is this? It's fantastic. I love the concept of rank and file so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely nailed it. And I loved that it was kind of, you had the Snake Eyes stuff, but it was kind of the only Joe-centric track on the album. I liked that as well, because this is Welcome to Cobra Island, and it's a lot of Cobra stuff, which leads me to, what's the possibility of a Welcome to the Pit?
Oh, well, there's a lot out there that I want to do and continue. And Wrong Ralph Pulaski, and like obviously MacGuffin device has a little bit of a nod, but there is a lot more. There's a lot I wanted to do on Cobra Island as well. And like, again, with Cobra Island, I didn't know, like, Fred Braca was actually the first song. It came out on my album called Third Burglar, like the year before Welcome to Cobra Island came out. And Fred Braca was kind of me testing the waters. Some people say Broca, some people say Braca. I read it in the comics as Fred Braca, Braca Beach. So I think Rap Viper, says Braca Beach. And I've met people who were like, it's Broca. And I'm like, dude, it's whatever it is when you read it.
Yeah. And anything that's written, like, until I hear somebody involved with production pronounce it, it's however you said it when you were a kid.
Yeah. And so that with Cobra Island, it was like, okay, I got Fred Braca. I want to do one Snake Eyes song. Of course, I couldn't keep it all in just one. And we've actually since done a part 4 to Letter from Snake Eyes. I
yes.
don't know if you've heard that.
I've got it. It was part of the I think you did like a follow-up, like, hey, if you backed this, here's a little bonus track for you. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, exactly. And we're going to have a little thing like that for the MacGuffin device as well. We got some fun stuff planned for backers. And so basically I could do a song about every character and minor character and Joe. I could just go on about comics. There's a lot of songs that I have started, some have finished, some I want to do. And Cobra Island originally came out when I first released it was crazy. It was 2013, the full album, and it's still free. If anyone hasn't heard it, you can download it for free on Bandcamp. I leave it up there on Bandcamp. Name your price for the digital version. But basically 2023, which is next year, it's going to be the 10th anniversary. So I figure, I got all these things that I've been planning. I might as well try and do something in 2023. So it's hard because it won't be the same as Welcome to Cobra Island, but but yeah, Welcome to the Pit. That's good. I mean, that could be, that could even be track. It's good.
Or Welcome to the Chaplain's Assistant School.
Exactly. Chaplain's Assistant Motor Pool. I will say you'll probably hear from Bongo the Balloon Bear and a few other.
Man,
because I like that stuff, right? Like,
I do too.
Captain Min, like all these like obscure little characters that would just pop up, and Larry would bring them back when you least expect them, like the White Clown and Magda, like that storyline, like just these cool things, like that Gulag storyline in like the early 60s with Stalker and Outback and everybody. Like that was like a crazy, like I could go on about those comics. So So yeah, I'm certainly not done. I don't think I'll ever be done making songs inspired by G.I. Joe for sure.
Well, that is excellent news.
Thanks, man.
Plenty of other things inspire you as well. What are some other like of the comics that have like really hit home with you, or maybe even just storylines, like stuff that for the listeners to get a sense of what Wordburglar is, the amalgamation of pop culture, like what kind of other comic stuff?
Well, I was mainly a Marvel zombie. I read a lot of DC, growing up, but now I read anything and everything. I mean, I can't even start like working at a comic shop. I got a job working at a comic shop in high school, Strange Adventures in Halifax. And I had already been reading mainly Spider-Man, X-Men, Batman, like the big ones. Yeah. And then they, working at the comic shop, the owner, Cal, who's like now, one of my best friends, he introduced me to the underground comics, like Dan Clowes or Evan Dorkin, Adrian Tomine, like all these, like Chester Brown, all these just amazing like underground comics that I really got into. But my love of superheroes never went away. So I was big on Invincible. When that first came out, I got the first issue and it blew my mind. And it's funny, I was working at the comic shop the day Walking Dead came out, and I read it on my lunch, and I was like, I'm not that into this. It's like 28 days later, and I would just read it at work. And then by issue 7, I remember being like, oh, this is actually, I really like this. So my Walking Dead collection starts at issue 7. The first 6 I just read in the store, and whoever bought it might've got like a little bit of my sandwich on the comic. No, I was very clean. I didn't eat with the comics. Just kidding.
That's wild, because mine is very, very similar. I just wasn't really that. I was a superhero guy. I wasn't really into zombies or other comic book stuff at the time. And a buddy of mine was like, you got to read Walking Dead. Robert Kirkman is brilliant. You got to check it out. And I was like, I'll get around to it. And then for my birthday, he gave me the first trade, which I would assume is probably about the first 6 issues.
Yes, first 6. Yeah, it was Shane.
And I read that, and I was like, oh my gosh, he was right. This is amazing. So my collection of single Walking Dead starts at 7 or so, right around there, because at that point I had, because I think that first trade had just come out. Mm-hmm. And I had to go get like a few back issues to get caught up. And so, same thing. It just didn't seem like, and I love horror movies. I love zombies and stuff. It just wasn't something for some reason that I'd ever wanted to read comics about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but,
exactly.
Man, it got me, man. And Robert Kirkman, I mean, he's pretty special talent, I think.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a household name now, but when those were first coming out, Walking Dead, and I knew like Battle Pope, which was a comic he had done prior to that, and but Invincible, like to this day, I think it's the best thing he's ever done. Like I've read just about everything he's done since, and I just love that run of Invincible. And I guess I kind of became acquaintances with Ryan Otley like early on when because he would come to conventions and I'd be like the Invincible. I'd be like, yo, I love Invincible, blah, blah. And he was like so hyped like before this got so big, and like he's an amazing artist. I mean, I love a lot of the Vertigo stuff. I was really into Garth Ennis for a while.
Big time.
There's a local artist, Jeff Lemire, who's obviously Sweet Tooth. People probably know now, like he's done tons of great work. So I love Sweet Tooth. Why the Last Man, I was really into. I'm just looking at my shelves, like Saga's back now. I love Saga. Vision, which by Tom King. If anyone hasn't read that mini series he did, I love that.
I haven't read Vision yet, but I did read his Mr. Miracle, which was, dude, blew my mind.
And that one I found, I love Mr. Miracle, and maybe like you really need to know your fourth world stuff for that book. I found, and like Vision, I found a little bit more accessible.
Yeah.
But I'm also like a huge Avengers nerd, so I got everything. So
I had very little interaction with the Avengers until the MCU happened. I was strictly Spider-Man and the X-Men, and my son will like, because he's 14 years old, so now he's the encyclopedia for everything because he's finding all this stuff. We watched the Invincible, the Amazon series. I haven't read the comics, but we watched the Amazon series and he's like, oh, this is great. I want to read these comics now. So he's like, all of the stuff that I've forgotten over the years, he now knows. And he'll ask me things about like the MCU or about like an Avengers character. And every time I'm just like, I know you've grown up in this, but Avengers were not my thing. I don't know. And he'll ask me something about like Moon Knight, because the Moon Knight show is getting ready to come on now. And he's like, oh, well, in the comics, did they do this, this, and this? And I'm like, he wasn't one of my guys. Ask me something about Spider-Man or Archangel or something. I can answer that stuff, but Archangel not exactly in the movie scene right now.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no. And the X-Men, obviously, just talking about like the stuff, like obviously in the 80s, that X-Men and Spidey were the big Marvel ones. And back to G.I. Joe, G.I. Joe outsold them both.
It essentially saved Marvel from what I understand. And that I may be simplifying that a little bit, but that licensing deal was massive for Marvel at the time.
Have you read the Untold is it the Untold Story of Marvel Comics or Untold Tale, the Sean Howe book?
No, I've not.
You seem like a gentle human person who would, that book's amazing.
Marvel Comics, the Untold Story. Sean, I'm writing it down right now.
Because just based on this is our first time ever meeting, first time I've ever met you, but I think you dig it because it's got a lot of great, you're wearing a Secret Wars shirt right now for the listeners at home. And, Jim Shooter and his whole story. And like,
that's where I got a ton of my information. Was Jim Shooter for a few years had a website where he would do blog entries kind of recounting his history at Marvel. Fascinating. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Because I always knew his name because he was the editor-in-chief on all the comics I was reading when I was a kid, but I didn't know anything about the guy.
Yeah.
But to find his, and I think it's still out there. It might just be jimshooter.com, but if you Google Jim Shooter, we're all adults. We know how to use the Google. But just fascinating, him telling these stories, and he's very frank. If he messed up somewhere, he acknowledges it. If he maybe wasn't the best in a relationship with a creator or something, he says, I kind of look back and I see, like, it's a very frank recollection of those years, and it's fascinating. So that it's such to look at Marvel as a comic book company and the number of times it almost went out of business and just the amazing output. It's a fascinating story, and that would be another great like biopic, like a Stan Lee biopic.
Yeah, I feel like they've talked about doing something like that for years, and of course you got to follow the Jack Kirby stuff too, and there's some great Jack Kirby books. Anyone who doesn't know, there's Two Morrows Publishing, like TWO Morrows.
Yeah,
they have a great book about Kirby that just came out, and it came out a couple of years ago, I guess. I bought it in New York right before the pandemic, so it's I guess about 2 years old, but it's great. Look up Two Morrows Jack Kirby book. The title, Kirby and Lee Stuff Said is the name of the book.
Oh, and nice.
It's a really deep dive, but it's all Kirby's side of things. And it's Kirby and Stan's stories, but we can't forget Kirby's contribution.
No, of course
that's
not.
A whole other podcast.
well, and that would make for a compelling film as well to get these two in their relationship. What was the? I can't even remember it. Moving on.
Yeah. So we've got a few rabbit holes that we can.
I know, right? Well, we gotta wind things down. Before we do, though, one more time, you got to tell us where we can order, where we can back the MacGuffin Device LP, because this is, like I said, it's important to me to hear things on vinyl if I can. It's a totally different way of interacting. And so I think this is an important thing. I mean, it's an artist. It's huge for you because it creates a new avenue of listener, because now somebody that may not be into things that's digitally is like, oh, well, let's check out this new hip hop album on vinyl. Again, looking for that experience for this music. It's a big deal. So where can we do
Thank you.
this?
Yeah. And just to your point, that's a big thing. I mean, you mentioned a few songs earlier, like Rental Patient has been around for a few years. Like a lot of these songs have come out, but I feel like in some cases, some people hear them, some people don't hear them. And then like now giving it life on vinyl is giving a chance for people to hear it. And it was actually featured in the last Blockbuster on Netflix, not to brag, but
that's awesome though.
Yeah. So we got in there just on, you can just hear the beat by Beat Mason and, yeah, so keen-eyed listeners, keen-eared, eagle-eared listeners. I don't know. I'll stop there. But yeah, the MacGuffin, it's all there. It's on the MacGuffin device, and I can't wait to get it out on vinyl. We're getting close to the goal, and yeah, if you go to wordburglar.com, there's a link right there. It goes to my Bandcamp page, propsdepartment.bandcamp.com. Or just Google Wordburglar the MacGuffin device, and you can find that. I'm on Twitter at Wordburglar, Instagram at the Wordburglar with an A. People spell it ER sometimes. I don't fault them, but it's like the amount of times people have spelled word burglar wrong. I've been the wood burglar, the worm burglar, word boogalaire, word bugler, word bugler, which is a real thing. I went to play a show one time and the promoter showed me the poster. He was so excited. He's like, we poster all over the city. Look at this. Look at this. Look, you're playing. It's great.
No.
It's in the newspaper. Word bugler.
And the people showed up for the show and they're like, why doesn't this man have a bugle? We're leaving. What a terrible disappointment.
Bugle words. How does that even happen? So I got a bag of bugles. I don't know. Do you have that in Atlanta? Bugles a snack?
Yeah, absolutely. When you're a kid, you put them on your fingers. And yeah. Absolutely.
So I had bugles at the show just for a laugh. But anyways, yeah, Wordburglar. I appreciate it. I hope if anyone loves vinyl, and I hope you'll give it a spin. I'm really proud of this record, and I've got a brand new record of all new tracks coming out in May. So maybe we'll chat about that in the future. Or Dave, I got to thank you for having me on. Like it's been an absolute pleasure, and I could nerd out about needless things with you anytime, man. So thanks for having me. This is great. I'm gonna definitely check out some of your other videos and stuff.
Yeah, we've got tons and tons and tons of content. Most of it's pretty fun. We try to have and that's what the note that I want to leave on, and the thing that really struck me is, as much as I love the pop culture stuff, as much as I love your production, the samples, everything, the music itself, the general positivity of the music, I think is really the big takeaway here. We need that. We need that badly. And it's putting smiles on people's faces is very important. And I thank you for doing that.
Thank you, man. It's honestly, I love doing it, and it's an honor, especially when, I meet people like yourself and you enjoy and you get that from the music. That honestly, that means the world to me. So thank you. Appreciate that.
Well, thanks for coming on and nerding out, man. And we'll definitely look to having you back in the future. Maybe we'll do like a specific topic episode and get real deep on something.
Yeah, I feel like we got a couple we could dive into.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks, man.
So that episode happened really fast. I backed the MacGuffin Device LP a few days ago. Whenever I first saw it, it came to my attention. Immediately got on and backed it because I really am. I'm not just blowing smoke. I do love Wordburglar's music, and I do really value listening to music on vinyl. So I jumped on that, and then he's one of those guys when he's doing a crowdbacker type thing. You get updates and communication and stuff. Like you really do feel like, to an extent, you're part of the process. And he sent out an email like, "Oh, by the way, if you want to promote this, if you got a podcast or whatever." And I was like, you know what? I haven't done an interview in a long time. This is a good opportunity to talk to somebody who has blown my mind, quite frankly. Sent an email very shortly, got a response back, and it was basically like, well, hey, I'm available tomorrow night. I said, let's do this. Let's make it happen. So that is why this is a special bonus episode, because one, I wanted to get it out as soon as possible to spread the word about the MacGuffin Device LP. but also just it was so cool how fast it happened and how friendly he was. And I mean, you heard through that interview, tremendous guy that I think we should all be supporting. The positivity and also just the fun of pop culture that we all love. So anyway, that's why that happened. And now I have his blessing to share a full track with you guys. We talked about it a couple times throughout the show. It's something near and dear to my heart. I'm going to play for you Rental Patient from the MacGuffin Device LP. Also, you can find it, wordburglar.com. Go check it all out. But here it is, the song we talked about a lot, Rental Patient. I love you guys.
Are your kids renting a movie this weekend?
Saturday afternoon matinees aren't what they used to be. To begin with, kids don't have to go to the movie theater. They can bring the movie home from the rental store.
What you know about going out to catch a movie at your own house? Waiting in line to watch something on your own couch, no doubt. You had to get up and get it, or ask an adult if your pick was restricted. Get this, I know it's hard to believe it, but if a movie was rented, you just couldn't see it. None to download from your humble abode. You'd have to leave your home bungalow and run down the road. Hope the local shop had a copy in stock, cause if not, gotta find something else to watch. And if you thought I was done with flipping your mind, they only let you have the flick for a limited time. And if you didn't rewind, you were the evilest dude. Worse than the term previously viewed. Even though you paid, it was only yours to borrow, cause after all of that, you'd have to bring it back tomorrow. Yo, take it from a rental patient. You had to have rental patience. Checking the shelves of every destination. They might have a copy at the next location. Yo, this is for the rental patient. Selecting discs and cassettes for playing. Popcorn sets through the ventilation. Better get something good cause your friends are waiting. Okay then, now in case you didn't know, the lengths you had to go just to get a video was a ritual. A major event when you got your own card and were able to rent. Swear everyone went. Families to film buffs, stoners and punks who try to steal stuff, or just loiter and eat the free popcorn. Sneak a peek behind the curtain, they stock porn, and every visit was a hunt and a gamble. Taking chances on new ones to sample. A lot of choices were only based on box art, so if you found a gem, you were a rock star. And few things could beat that relieved smile of being first to the new release style. But be guile, cause if you don't wanna find, you better make sure you return it on time. Yo, this is for the rental patient. Selecting discs and cassettes for playing. Popcorn sets through the ventilation. Better get something good cause your friends are waiting. The top movies were dirty. They all got around, in and out of every last player in town. Wow, I mean, why you think each release came with fingerprint stains and some pizza grease? 7-day rentals for $7, kid? Test your luck, cause what you picked you were stuck with. Why put up with this? Glad you asked. Cause buying back then cost a lot of cash. It was the age of renters, made more memorable. Cause we knew what we had was ephemeral. A flicker on the screen, a brief time and moment of taking something home, knowing you didn't own it. You don't appreciate the grace till you take a risk. Beta VHS, DVD, Laserdisc. Maybe this is just how they were meant to be seen. On pieces of plastic, you stick in machines. Yo, take it from a rental patient. You had to have rental patience. Checking the shelves of every destination. They might have a copy at the next location. Yo, this is for the rental patient. Selecting discs and cassettes for playing. Popcorn sets through the ventilation. Better get something good cause your friends are waiting. You had to have rental patience. Yes. For all the rental patients I used to see at Video Villa, aka Super Video, Queen of Morris, Video Difference, Critics' Choice, Gigantic Video, Jumbo Video, Video Flicks, Video Pix, MT Video, Video 99, Johnson's Video in Scarborough where I saw the G.I. Joe cartoon movie, and they had the Super Famicom games and the Famicom games with the converters. That was crazy. Blockbuster, you can't forget about. Hollywood, Video 99, Queen Video, Video Free Brooklyn, whatever video in every city, yo. This is for every rental patient out there.
Can children rent these cassettes, any cassettes from these rental places? Cassettes from these rental places. From these rental places. From these rental places. From these rental places. From these rental places.
You have been listening to a Needless Things podcast. You can follow Needless Things on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and at needlessthingspodcast.com. Love you. Mean it. Uh-huh.